Two dogs, both bred to kill wolves, both massive, both fiercely loyal, and both completely misunderstood by the average person scrolling through dog content looking for a big, cool guard dog. Here's what nobody tells you. One of these breeds will protect your family with calm, calculated intelligence. The other will protect your family whether you asked it to or not on its own terms, and good luck changing its mind. One of them has been guarding livestock in the mountains of Turkey for thousands of years with minimal human direction. The other comes from the Caucasus, a region so brutal and remote that the dog literally evolved to fight bears, not scare them off, fight them. By the end of this, you'll know which one is actually manageable for a real-life owner, which one is basically a wild predator wearing the costume of a pet, and, most importantly, why most people who buy either of these breeds are completely unprepared for what they signed up for. Stay through to the end because the ownership verdict on these two is the part most channels skip entirely, and it changes everything. Round 1. Origin and Purpose. The Kangal comes from Sivas, Turkey, specifically bred by the Kangal people to guard sheep flocks against wolves, jackals, and bears across the open Anatolian plateau. These aren't dogs that were trained to guard. Guarding is genetically wired into them at a level that's honestly hard to wrap your head around. They wore spiked iron collars called Tasma so wolves couldn't bite their necks mid-fight. That's not a fun historical fact. That's a window into what this dog was built for. The Caucasian Shepherd, also called the Caucasian Ovcharka, comes from the mountain regions of Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan, and the broader Caucasus range. Their job? Same thing, but rougher terrain, harsher winters, and in some documented cases, actual bear confrontations, not just wolves, bears. For centuries, both breeds operated almost entirely without human command during their working day. They made their own decisions. They assessed threats independently. They acted. That autonomy isn't a training flaw. It's the entire point of the breed's existence. So, right from the start, you're not dealing with breeds that want to please you. You're dealing with breeds that have their own deeply embedded agenda, and you're hopefully aligned with it. Round 2. Size and physical presence. The Kangal sits between 90 and 145 pounds for males, with females running slightly smaller. They're tall, lean, muscular, and fast, deceptively fast for their size. Their build is more athletic than bulky. Think of them as a linebacker who can also sprint a 40-yard dash. The Caucasian is something else entirely. Males routinely hit 110 to 170 pounds, with some working lines pushing 200. They're thick-boned, heavily coated, and they look genuinely like a small bear themselves, the long-coated variety especially. You'll be walking something that strangers cross the street to avoid, not because it's barking, just because of what it looks like standing there. Both dogs have a bite force that ranks among the highest measured in any domestic dog breed. The Kangal consistently clocks between 700 and 743 psi in documented tests. That's enough to snap a human femur. The Caucasian hasn't been as formally tested at scale, but anecdotal working reports suggest comparable or greater force. This is information you should sit with, not as a cool party fact, as a serious responsibility check. Round 3. Temperament and Personality. Here's where they diverge in a meaningful way, and where the choice for most owners actually gets made. The Kangal, despite everything I just told you, is notably calm and measured in civilian life. These dogs don't bark at everything. They observe first. They assess. They decide. Owners consistently describe them as almost emotionally intelligent, aware of the difference between a real threat and a kid on a bicycle. With their family, they're gentle, deeply devoted, and surprisingly affectionate. They have a settled, stoic quality to them that's rare in large working breeds. That doesn't mean they're soft. The moment something registers as a genuine threat, the switch flips, and there's no talking them down mid-decision. But the baseline behavior around trusted people is composed, even warm.
The Caucasian Shepherd is a different personality profile entirely. Where the Kangal observes, the Caucasian is immediately suspicious, not aggressive without cause, but trust is not their default setting. They extend it slowly, selectively, and once given, it's unshakable. Strangers in or around the home are viewed with serious skepticism until the owner signals otherwise, and sometimes even then they're not entirely convinced. This is a dog that will decide who is allowed near you, and they're not always open to a second opinion. Here's what nobody tells you about the Caucasian. Their aggression is never random. It's always rooted in a threat calculation you may not even have noticed, a shift in someone's posture, an unfamiliar scent, someone lingering too long outside your gate. These dogs are reading the environment constantly. That's the genius of the breed and the liability of the breed at the same time. Round 4. Trainability and Control. This is where most owners hit the wall. Neither of these breeds is going to sit and shake hands for a treat and think life is grand. That's not an insult. It's just the reality of working LGDs, livestock guardian dogs. They were bred to function independently. Independent in a working dog means doesn't automatically defer to humans, which means training requires something different from what works on a golden retriever. The Congo is more responsive to a consistent, calm owner with clear structure. They're not obedient in the traditional sense, but they are sensible. If you establish yourself as a trustworthy leader from a young age, they'll respect the household hierarchy. Early socialization, real socialization, not just meeting 3 dogs in the park, makes a dramatic difference in how they handle new situations as adults. The Caucasian is a harder conversation. They're not impossible to train, but they are deeply stubborn, acutely territorial, and do not respond to harsh handling at all. Try to dominate a Caucasian Shepherd with force, and you'll either get shut down or you'll create a genuinely dangerous animal. They require a handler who's confident without being aggressive, patient without being a pushover, and experienced enough to know the difference. A first-time owner should not own a Caucasian Shepherd. That's not an opinion. It's a near-universal consensus among experienced LGD trainers and breed experts. If you've never owned a large working breed before, start with something that will teach you the ropes before you attempt this one. Living conditions and lifestyle fit. The Kangal needs space. A large, securely fenced yard is not optional, it's minimum viable living conditions. They're not apartment dogs, they're not condo dogs, and they're not will be fine in the city if I walk him twice dogs. They need to patrol. That instinct is active whether they're in Ankara or a suburb of Dallas. They're escape artists, not because they're bored, because perimeter monitoring is their job, and checking what's on the other side of the fence is part of the job. Your fence needs to be tall, anchored, and they should never be left unsecured in an unfenced area. The Caucasian Shepherd needs the same space, ideally more, with even higher fencing. A 6-foot fence is the starting point, not the goal. They've been documented clearing fences that would stop most large dogs, and unlike the Congo, who might wander to investigate, the Caucasian on the other side of that fence with an unknown dog or person nearby is a situation that can go bad fast. Neither of these breeds is suited to apartment life, small properties, or owners who travel frequently and use kennels. They form deep territorial bonds with their space. Disrupting that bond has real behavioral consequences. Round 6. The honest flaws. Congo. The biggest issue, shedding. Twice a year you'll think you're losing the dog. Their coat blows out aggressively and it will be on everything you own. Beyond that, health is actually strong for a large breed. Hip dysplasia exists but is less prevalent than in many similar-sized dogs. Lifespan runs 12 to 15 years, which is excellent. The main problem most owners face is underestimating the exercise and space commitment and ending up with a bored, anxious, or destructive dog that was never given what it naturally needed to thrive. Caucasian Shepherd. Health is a more serious concern. Hip and elbow dysplasia are fairly common in the breed. Their lifespan runs 10 to 12 years, which is shorter. Grooming the long-coated variety is a serious time commitment. Professional grooming several times a year, plus regular brushing at home, or you're looking at severe matting. Beyond health, the liability issue is real. A poorly socialized or mishandled Caucasian Shepherd is one of the highest-risk dogs in the world from an insurance and legal standpoint. Some regions and countries outright ban them. You need to know the laws in your area before you even look at a breeder. So, who wins the guardian battle? Honestly, it depends on what you mean by win. If you want a dog that is formidable, devoted, calm enough to coexist with daily life, and manageable for a dedicated but not necessarily expert owner, the Kangal is your answer. It's the more balanced package, powerful without being a liability, independent without being uncontrollable, ancient without being archaic. If you want the most serious guardian animal outside of a military or professional working context, the Caucasian Shepherd is in a class of its own. This is not a pet with guard dog tendencies. This is a guardian animal that you're also trying to have as a pet. The distinction matters enormously. In the right hands, on the right property, for an owner who genuinely understands